arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Ansony Sieh, the host of the Hour of Politics. The topic under discussion today, how Mr. Cummings destroyed his chances to becoming president of the Republic of Liberia. That is the argument that I'm prepared to make today, where my two colleagues here are trying to see it otherwise, and that is good for a healthy discussion. Gentlemen, you gave your opinion, let me give mine. I strongly believe, given the decisions and political calculations that Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings has made since he entered into politics in Liberia, he has harmed his chances. He has destroyed his chances. He has minimized his political standing with decisions, with calculations, with with collaborations, and political relationship that he has built, and political relationship he has also destroyed. He has also sacrificed some of his partisans in pursuit of his political glory. And this I will be able to support with all my points and analysis in the discussion today. So, gentlemen, let us get started here. I think we have a discussion. One thing I want to bring, first of all, is that Mr. Cummings, when he came, he made a mantra. He brought a mantra to us that I like. You cannot be doing the same things over and over and expect different results. Now, the question I'm asking you guys is Mr. Cummings guilty of his own mantra? Because he made his mantra when he entered politics in Liberia. I believe he's guilty, but I'll give you the opportunity to go first. And this time we are starting with you, Steve. How is Mr. Cummings now guilty of this saying that you cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results?
Well, Mr. Sieh, last time I left the show, I was cautioned to be very careful on treading, especially on speaking on issues, because we've already been accused of being Cummings people, being Cummings boy, being Cummings man. But I will approach the question from a different angle, because I want to be very careful as to how I present my answer.
Are you afraid of what people think of what you say? Or
No,
you believe what you want to say? Just say it.
Not necessarily, but I also
don't worry about what people say.
I also got to be careful and very cautious. But let me say this, because I want to remain as independent and as balanced as possible, but yet stick with the facts. So here is the fact. The fact is, I do not believe Mr. Cummings is guilty of that saying. I do not believe so. However, here is what I believe. I believe Liberia is not only a unique place, but I believe Liberia is so infested with bad actors and the wrong people that even when you intend to do the right thing, when you try to do the right thing, you would have to appear as though you were doing the wrong thing or you're contradicting yourself. I gave you a common example. The issue of Simeon Taylor, back, I think, in the senatorial election, by-election before the 2020 election, 2019, when it appeared as though Simeon Taylor would not be fed into the race under the ANC at the time, where the ANC seemed to have backed off to give a seat to the Unity Party. And I stand to be corrected on that information, but if I can recollect, that was done to ensure peace, openness, transparency, tranquility, as people will say, and to also forge some form of unity and collaboration, the sense of being open. That was misconstrued by some as weakness, as meekness, as somebody who's coming in line with wrong actors. But we have to understand from my initial position that I made here that the country is infested. This is what we have to work with. In order to make the significant change that you have to make, you have to get to that top. But in order to get to the top, there is not enough good people. There is not enough honest people in the country. There is not enough good politicians to work with. So the hand that you will have to deal with that hand.
So, Steve, may I hold you there? You are saying, in essence, there are fewer good people and there are more bad actors in Liberia. And so, even if you claim that you cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results, you'll be compelled to do the same thing over and over just to get a different result. That is what I'm hearing from you?
No, not necessarily. I wouldn't even use the word fewer good people. For the case of Liberia, there is a tiny, baby, minute good people in Liberia. Maybe you can count them, especially when it comes to politics and when it comes to doing what is right, the rule of law. There are minute, very small, tiny bit. I don't even know how to quantify it.
So in essence, you are saying in Liberia, they are not good people enough that one can work with to achieve whatever they want to achieve politically. All the political
for the most part, no, I didn't say all. I said for the majority of them, they're very bad people. Very, very bad people who have no good intentions. They're used to the system. They're acclimated with the system. They like the system. They don't want any kind of real change to benefit anybody. They play these little games because it benefits them. So back to the point where I was making that Mr. Cummings did not contradict himself when he said that. He did not contradict himself. You have to look at the terrain. You have to look at the environment. You have to look at the place in which you're working. For a certain mantra or for certain sayings to hold, I would have expected him to maybe add on after he had said that, to add something to it, to segment that statement. But I don't think he contradicted himself because as of now, he has not broken his principles so far, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the public records are concerned, and as far as what we know, he has not broken that.
Thank you. Mr. Benjamin Kofa-Fanier, this is a big saying that coming into the political space with. You cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. But he has been playing just as all other Delhi politicians have played since he entered. Your take?
Firstly, I would partly disagree with Steve. You see, based on the intro that you played, the intro set the stage for this entire show. In that intro, we have Mr. Alexander Cummings declaring that his ultimate goal is to change Liberia. That's number one. Number two, in that intro, he said he wants to work with honest men and women. Now, this is what I would say. This mantra that he has, it speaks to what I call leadership. What does a leader do? A leader inspires, he motivates his people, and he leads them. I will tell you this, no matter how bad Liberia is, let's separate key things. You can look at the leadership and say the leadership is bad, but you look at the mass of the people who make up maybe 90% of Liberia. They are people who are just waiting for the inspirational leader. Cummings failed in that direction in terms of setting himself apart. And I would say this, I think he believed a lie. There is this notion going around that if you don't combine with these people, if you don't merge with these people, you cannot win. I will tell you this, Steve, I'm going to Liberia. Even if it's one individual that votes for me, one, I will accept that I have impacted somebody positive. For you to lead, for you to make any significant change anywhere, you have to most at times stand alone, because that stance that you're going to take, it will to a large extent inspire people, motivate people, and even draw people towards you. I would say in that aspect, in line with his mantra, Mr. Cummings failed. And one of the things that we can do if we want to change track, I'm here today to help him change track, is that we have to acknowledge our failure. We have to say, no, we did this thing wrong. We have to make adjustment in terms of changing our tracks. So in line with his mantra, Mr. Cummings failed because he's a new guy. This guy came from an entity that brags about integrity. I didn't expect him to form partnership with some of the people that he formed partnership with. That goes against his integrity. That goes against his principle. I will say this. I would be very sad if anybody would want to say, well, he had to do this. We do not sacrifice our core integrity, our core principle, just for the desire to win. Then we are not honest. So he failed there. And I'm close to the end of this show. I would kind of give him some pieces of advice in terms of what are the necessary adjustments he needs to make. But in line with his mantra, he failed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And gentlemen, here is my take. If there is anybody who has failed their own standard, their own mantra, that is Mr. Cummings. The CDC brought a mantra, it failed. Mr. Cummings too brought his own mantra. He's yet to be elected. He failed his own mantra. Look, you have to look at the statement. We cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. What are the things that have been done over and over by politicians? They come, they look for crooked people to work along with. That is what Mr. Cummings had done. As soon as he entered the political space, for the first time when he entered, he started and joined the ANC. He ran. Now, when he contested the election that we're talking about, this is what happened, Steve. And let me bring the image here for you, for people to see. Yeah, it's Mr. Cummings. There is Benny Nayure, Mr. Cummings in the middle, and George Weah. Those are the people he formed alliance with. Why? How is that not contradictory to your mantra of doing business with a Benny Nayure? Now, Ben says something that is profound. You have to be an inspirational leader. There are more good Liberians, talking about the voters, there are more good Liberians, Mr. Cummings, who have chosen to inspire the voters. Now, let me tell you something. There's a guy called Colin Kaepernick. He's one of the persons that Benjamin Fanet admire. You go on Facebook page, he's there. I believe he was the first person to kneel on the football field in protest to what's being done to Black people in this country. He was being criticized. He lost his job as a quarterback. Today, he's yet to get on the field. He did not back down. Today, he is highly respected. I guarantee you, if Kaepernick to say I'm running for office in any state that he's in, she will surely win. He has changed people thinking. Now, as we speak, even political leaders, majority of them agree with him. That is what Mr. Cummings should have done. He should have lived his mantra. He did not live that mantra. He started forming alliances with crooked politicians. That is what he done. And Mr. Cummings did not inspire the kind of generational leadership that is needed for him to bring the change that is needed in Liberia. I think Mr. Cummings is guilty of his own mantra.
So can I just make a quick disclaimer, maybe 30 seconds before we can move forward?
Please.
I want to clarify something, and I want to be clear on this. I didn't say the Liberian people are bad, because the Liberian people, evidently, are the voters. They will decide who becomes the president. I said, majority of the politicians in Liberia are bad. Majority of them, they don't mean well. They're comfortable with the situations. They're comfortable with the system. This is the hand we are dealt with. In the context of that statement, I'll restate. maybe Focus on Liberia might have to invite Mr. Cummings as to what he meant by that. But from a general perspective, just looking at it, that we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different result. I do not think, based on his principle, Mr. Cummings, and what he has done so far in his life, whether politically or not, I do not think he has betrayed this statement. I'm not sure if this statement was applicable to the Liberian people in terms of their voting. We have to be careful here because these are words.
And
this is why I want to stop. This is why I want to lay my argument. And that's why
hold on there. Let him end there.
This is why I want to lay my conversation. That's what I was trying to say. If this is applicable to the Liberian people, then maybe it meant we, the Liberian people, we cannot keep voting the same people and expect change.
Thank you, Steve.
If this is applicable to the politicians, then it also means indirectly we, the politicians or the people who are in politics, cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and expect change. Now,
Thank you.
Bottom line here, Mr. Sieh, is in Liberia, the way the political system looks, the amount of people we're handed to work with or deal with, it will be practically impossible and impossible, if I can use that word, that'd be impossible and cannot, for anybody in Liberia to say you will not collaborate and win an election.
Thank you, Steve.
It's not possible.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Here's the thing before Ben can come in. Let me give you more information. Look at a cheat, a demagogue, a racist, Donald Trump. This guy came with a message, even though that message was your door whistle. But guess what he did? He said, we're going to drain the swamp. Washington is corrupt. The politicians fail us. He made a page to the ordinary voters in the Republican Party. He did not form any kind of alliance with the Washington elite, political elite. He carved his message against them. And he carved the message for the people. The Republicans voted for a cheat like Trump. You understand? Then Obama came with a message of change. And he preached that message to the ordinary voters, the students. He won them over and he got elected. He did not go the traditional way the Democrats would do business. Trump did not go the traditional way Republicans would do business. He will win. Mr. Cummings did not do that. He started forming alliances with Ure and others. Ben, your turn. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to reconfirm what all of you guys are saying now. You know, when we introduce ourselves as change agent, our goal most time is not to change the mindset of those who we are engaging. What we do is we challenge them. You see, because I can't change you, Ansony, I can't change Steve, but I will give you thoughts. I will showcase actions that will challenge the way you think, like your perception of reality. I will give you something to think about. So what I will come and say, well, what is happening now is bad, and what I would do to change this is X, Y, Z. So what would be left with you now? You will go home and say, well, look at what I'm experiencing. I mean, in terms of what John Brown is saying, then you will be able to assess both sides. So most times, like what we are all, what we are all here trying to say today, I think this individual should have stood up alone. He should have been like, I am the person who is going to make a difference. I believe that a difference can be made here. And that action alone could inspire. And I will tell you this, Steve. I know Steve and my man, you know, the last time I went, they were all nice and all, you know, happy with me and asked me all kind of questions. But Steve, let me tell you this. There are many Liberians that they are landing in Liberia, and I said this, I don't want nobody to come to meet me on the airport. We will find someone to meet, but there are many Liberians who gravitate towards me because I'm saying I am not aligning with nobody. Liberia need a total divorce from what is transpiring right now. We need to go in a totally new direction. And for me saying, well, I wouldn't align with nobody, people say, well, nobody will vote for you. They'll be focused about who's this guy? Because what I'm telling them, what is transpiring now is wrong. We don't need to refine what is transpiring. We need to change it. We need to divorce it. And that's what Mr. Cummings should have done. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move to the next segment. The discussion is getting juicy. You know, I can't emphasize it enough. Trump came, he went to the people, he said, hey, I'm you and myself can do this thing. Forget about all corrupt politicians. Obama did the same thing to the students, say. And if you can disagree with the CDC say, hey, we are grassroots. Let's forget about the politicians. They fail us. Let's come together. The young people, the ordinary people came to the CDC credit, and they won. We can debate the dynamics of the winning and all that play in, but they had the people behind them and they won because they went to the people. They gave ownership of the decision making when it comes to the presidency to the people. Cummings missed that opportunity. He went the usual route, and that is doing business, doing the same thing over and over. Now, another thing that Mr. Cummings has made popular is that the best predictor of current behavior is past behavior, and that the best predictor of future behavior is current behavior. Now, gentlemen, the debate continues, and I'm asking the question: do Cummings' past and current behavior predict that he is a terrible political leader? Ben will start this time.
Well, I would not term him as terrible. What I would say is there are two things at play here. He has maybe bad advisors, and I think he misjudged the landscape in Liberia, because what he just said over there is 100% right. I agree with that, but his actions, as we try to compare them to what's happening in Liberia, is contrary. Because if we look at some of the folks that he have aligned himself with, it goes contrary to what that phrase said. But all I'm trying to say here is that he has opportunity to rebound. He has a golden opportunity. What is transpiring right now? He has a golden opportunity. And as we go to the end of the show, I will list that out. But in regard to that court, it was a critical misstep for him to do what he did in Liberia. I know Steve will not go to Liberia and form a partnership with Mr. Uri just to win an election. Then what is the change? Waka was vice president for 12 years. In that 12 years, Liberia became known as the most corrupt nation in the world. Mm-hmm. And this is the guy I'm forming partnership with to bring change. It makes no sense. But like I said, the advisor was wrong. They didn't give him good advice. And number two, I think he misjudged the landscape in Liberia. That's what I have to say to it.
And before Steve can come in, you are putting this on his advisors. Advisors are like people making suggestions. And the leader will look at that suggestion and decide what is in the best interest of the institution or that leader. So you cannot blame this on advisor, don't you think?
Well, I would say one thing.
At the end of the day, it's the leader who makes that decision.
I would say one thing. Ultimately, the responsibility and the decision fall on the leaders. But let me say this. A while back ago, I received hint of a job in Liberia. And I called the guys in Liberia. You see, we were trying to dialogue. And people say, oh, this is how we do it here. This is how we do it here. Sometimes based on the individual, people can influence your decision and they can influence you wrong with. So what happened is maybe he wasn't strong enough. So at the end of the day, even though he went against what he said, he did what he said. All I'm trying to say is that, like for me, when the guys were telling me, oh, this how we do it in Liberia, I said, no, I'm not going to do that way. And that's why I didn't accept that job. All I'm trying to say is sometimes the advisors prevail upon you. And at the end of the day, you look as if you took that decision. Because I'm telling you this, I know I've been in conversation with many Liberians. They say, oh, my man, how we do it here, how we do it here. Like I said, you have to stand. You have to take a stand. And that is what maybe in my estimation he didn't do. So I have to give him both sides because I don't think he operates in isolation. I know he has a team,
So,
and
so Ben, in essence, you are saying, is this saying that when you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do? Even though you are preaching Rome must change, but then you now arrive in Rome
that's what I
and
told
you
you.
say we're
He
going to do
was
what the Romans do.
wrong. He was wrong, but I'm looking at the contributing factors, because
Okay.
most times, like if you are leading a team, it's not an individual. It's like I'm a consensus. So I'm assuming, I could be wrong here, that the advisor built upon him.
All right.
Because based on what he said, if
Mhm.
what he said, he was going by what he said, he wouldn't have done that in Liberia.
All
So
right.
maybe he was prevailed upon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, we're talking about the best predictor of current behavior is past behavior, and the best predictor of future behavior is current behavior. The question is, looking at Mr. Cummings' past and current behavior, is he a terrible leader?
Well, I wouldn't use the word terrible leader in this context because globally, internationally, places with
Let me qualify that. Terrible political leader. That is why in my question here. Terrible political leader. Go ahead.
yeah, so I wouldn't. If you restrict it to politics, then I would.
I'm restricting it to politics. Is he a
Okay.
terrible political leader?
I'll keep it in context based on your question of him being, from a political standpoint. Being a terrible political leader would mean a lot of different things. But here is how I choose to answer this question. I think he made some mistakes, being whether new to politics or to the politics of Liberia, not necessarily not being in political arenas or around politicians, because based on his record, he's interacted with politicians. He's made some mistakes. I wouldn't blame this. I wouldn't restrict this to his advisors, because it is up to him to pick his advisors based on recommendations or whatever now. But what I would say is, yes, he made some mistakes, but I still think and I still believe that he means well and he wants to do well by the Liberian people. Let me say this. This is politics. This is not church. This is not religion. This is not a playing field, again, where you have people of caliber that you can compare character to, or that you can compare whether that goodwill, political will to do the right thing, whether you can compare them and so forth. You made an analogy about Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Donald Trump's winning the election 2017 raised a lot of question. Donald Trump came in with hate. He preached a hate message that was bought by a group of racist people that eventually brought him to the White House and divided the country, divided the White House, and so forth. Donald Trump's presidency was characterized just by his campaign. So I say this to say that if we want to use this statement, whether in politics or out of politics, then we can predict that if Mr. Cummings is given a chance to become a president, he would be productive, because his records speak of him as being productive, as being efficient, as being effective, and so forth. So
how come, Steve? Let me look at that, Steve. How come? Because according to his favorite saying, that we have to look at current behavior to predict future. And we're talking politics here. I'm not talking about a corporate America decision making. He entered politics since 2017. All right.
No, you have to look at two of them, past and current, not necessarily one. We have to keep that.
We are talking politics here, Steve. So we are looking at his past and current decision making in politics.
Yes.
And looking at the decision he's made so far in past and current in politics, not corporate America. I'm asking a question, don't you two? And for your information also, the definition of terrible is extremely and distressingly bad or serious. In other words, he has made extremely bad decisions, distressingly bad decisions, or decisions that were serious mistake. And that is the definition of the word terrible. Based on that definition, has Cummings made serious decisions that are bad, terrible?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Some of the decisions that he made that were terrible was joining the CPP.
Okay.
That was a terrible mistake. I believe if I were ever advising Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Fan can attest to that if Benedict Ure comes up and say he wants to support him, he might not be in alliance with Benedict Ure, but he will accept the support because politics are normal. He would. And he can't deny that. He knows that's a fact. But that's a side point. I would have rather strategized my campaign wherein I project and bring myself as not only attracting people to support me rather than getting into a collaboration. So in other words, I would make these guys follow and not join with them necessarily to follow. So I think he made a huge miscalculations in some of those areas. Another place I think also he made some miscalculations was not being proactive when this whole CPP halu-balu started, the whole noise. He had a perfect window and a perfect opportunity to go after Benedict Ure. After Benedict Ure accused him falsely, he allowed that to slide because he thinks politics, maybe his advisors and him, they think that politics are joke or the things are fun. You cannot be defensive. You cannot be reactive. You must be proactive when you're in this, especially when you're dealing with bad actors. Because these guys, remember Joy Howard Taylor and Vice President Joy Howard Taylor made a statement one time on Spoon. She said, these guys are having meeting at 3 a.m. in the morning. So you see what I'm saying? In America, people wake up early on to prepare their day and so forth. People who really want to succeed. One of the common themes every successful person has is they're not too much of a sleeper. So instead of them being proactive because they're planning while other people are sleeping, these guys are planning. So I thought he was very reactive. I think part of his bad decisions that he's made also in politics is the fact that he's overlooked some things and he has not been proactive.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Finn.
Okay. Ansony, you see, there's one thing that most of us we don't do, when we are trying to assess this kind of thing. For me, the most important thing that I want Liberians to get from me on the show today is, how did we get here? How did we get here? You see, we are discussing everything that we have here right now, but there were a series of events that led to this. And I think if we are honest to ourselves, we can use this experience as a basis for learning. Let me just say what I want to say here. This individual entry into Liberia, and I mentioned earlier, maybe the pushback on me, I'm sure when he was making the initial decision to go into Liberian space, he discussed it with some people. He has some expert opinion, expert advice. What stopped this man from branding himself? I'm saying, well, Liberians need to change direction, and I want to be that change agent. What stopped him from trying to outdo?
And Ben, may I inject this?
Agenda.
No, Ben, may I inject this?
Also,
Ben, can you hear me?
Him, from speaking to a lot of the wrong issues that are going on in Liberia. You see, he failed in all of those areas. He failed. That's why his only option that was left to him was to reinforce himself with actors that he felt could help bring him the numbers to propel him to the top. You see, he failed in the initial stages. And that's why we are discussing all of this. I think one of the things we need to talk about, how did we get here? How did we get here? What are some of the missteps that led up to us being where we are today? And until we can do that and discuss it sufficiently, some of these mistakes will be repeated by other actors. So I think that is key. Number one, Mr. Cummings did not sufficiently brand himself and behave as an agent of change. Thank you.
Thank you. And gentlemen, it's my turn. I believe Mr. Cummings has made terrible decisions as a political leader. And with these decisions he made, he has destroyed his path to becoming president. He's a terrible political leader based on his judgments and based on his decisions that he has made. Let me agree with Steve that joining the CPP was so distressing and extremely bad decision that he made. Very terrible indeed. Unity Party that robbed the country of every penny to become a developed nation. Unity Party that are paying people $15,000. Baka, who was signing the checks, signing the budget and netting over 2 million in nearly in every budget. Baka was getting more money than what his county Lofa was getting in county development funds. And this is the man you went into a merger or an alliance with, Ure, who along with Charles Taylor ripped our country apart when he was at Maritime, making all the money. Ure and Taylor brought a company called Lone Star. They started selling SIM card for $65. Yes, because SIM card would be just $5. Imagine how those guys rip poor Liberians of their little pennies they have to survive. Mr. Cummings came and then he joined ranks with Ure. Not one time, but 2 times. When he did it the first time, it didn't go well for him. He won't stop. And we have the pictures yet to show. And I'm going to show them again. This was the first time Mr. Cummings joined ranks with Ure. And now this is the second time, again, he's joining ranks with the very Ure. And this time also with Unity Party. Unity Party is the statue of corruption in Liberia. No Kaga, Ben Roy, Ellen took responsibility. Bwaka didn't say anything. And you went into the deal with Bwaka. What was he thinking? That was a serious, terrible mistake that he made, and it made him to look like a bad political and terrible political leader. You said that we will look at current behavior to predict future behavior. If Cummings, and talking about the CPP, Tony, when they crafted the CPP framework document, Mr. Cummings was part of it. In that document, they said to be considered for employment within the CPP, you must be known, you must be active, and you must be visible. In other words, you needed to be a member of CPP in order to get an appointment in a possible CPP or government. Mr. Cummings didn't know that was in violation of the Liberian Constitution. But he was there. They signed up to that. Liberian people have to condemn it before they will all go back to correct that. Mr. Cummings did not stop there. He now entered an MOU with Musa Belete, another questionable character in Liberian politics in the code of public opinion. Musa Belete, I'm not talking code record, but I'm talking in the space of public opinion. Musa Belete does not have a good record. His public record is questionable in the eyes of the Liberian people. He struck a deal, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding behind closed doors with Musa Belete, where Liberty Party will be producing a presidential candidate when he still have the wahala of the CPP on him that got him in court. And like 2 parties left, and you're striking a deal with this guy, and they didn't stop there. They're talking about devaluing jobs. Up to now, we are yet to see the deals. And Musa Belete is giving Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings an ultimatum. He has been seen with Musa Belete from one place to the other. Terrible decision making. That is doing business as usual. And Mr. Cummings has harmed his chances of becoming president of the Republic of Liberia, and he has gone against everything he's preached. You can't be doing the same thing over and over. The best predictor of this and all that. That is my take. And Mr. Cummings has made terrible decisions, and he's a terrible political leader based on his judgments of aligning himself with the questionable political actors in Liberia.
Mr. Sieh, can Can I just make a quick point and we'll move to the next section really quick?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Having deals or having conversations with people or signing MOUs, they're part of the political arena. Mm-hmm. That's what people do. They make deals. Mm-hmm. You said in a court of public opinion, I'm not here to defend Musa's ability. I did see the record from FIFA, and I did admit to that record that based on FIFA's internal investigation, they did find him guilty based on the internal investigation. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that it went to a court or competent jurisdiction, but we want to stick with the FIFA record. Mm-hmm. Based on the internal investigation and so forth. They found him guilty and so forth. So by that, based on FIFA's standard, he is guilty. Let me say this. Remember my initial statement here earlier when I made it, I saw the Facebook feed buzzing up. There are bad actors in Liberia. You would have to win to lead. I'll say it again. You would have to win to lead Liberia. Now, in essence, the Liberty Party, I've said it on SKTV and I'll say here again, the Liberty Party is the way to the presidency. I believe so from all calculations and indications, the Liberty Party is the way to the presidency in Liberia. As of now, signing an MOU, I don't know what's in the MOU. I'm not sure until I can read it for a fact. But let's say hypothetically, this MOU was signed to say Musa Benede should be vice president. Here's the biggest question. Is Musa Benede fit to be vice president? Should he be given chance to be vice president? We, the people, have elected people that have killed our people. We've elected them. We've elected people. I'm not here to justify anything. I'm not making comparison, but we have to stick with the facts. We have elected people that have committed atrocity and mayhem, human rights violation we have. Now, does that mean that there are not other options for Mr. Cummings? There are other options. There are other options.
Then why are you saying that, Steve, if there are other options?
And we have to present the facts. These are the facts. There are other options. If these other options, let's say if these other options, I don't know for a fact, but let's say if these other options were reached and these other options do not want to make themselves available at the time to work with, let's say, Mr. Cummings or Mr. Blacker, and you have this hand to deal with, what do? Do you abandon the?
Are you ready to make it? Because this is what you're saying. This is what I'm understanding from you. That Liberians, hold on, Steve. That Liberian elected Prince Johnson. Liberian elected, let's say, George Bolle.
Yes.
And many other actors.
Charles Taylor. Let's start from Charles Taylor.
Charles Taylor, thank you. Ellen Johnson. Let's mention her, right?
Howard Taylor.
And we all agree that these people were bad actors.
Most definitely. And
Musa Benede, in the court of public opinion, is a bad actor. He has questionable character. And you are saying if Liberians felt that it was okay to elect the likes of Ellen, Prince Johnson, what is wrong with electing or doing business with Musa Benede? That is why you are saying in essence.
This is the question I'm asking the essence.
Don't you think that's the problem? Don't you think that is against that we cannot be doing the same thing over and over and expect different results? Don't you?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily, Mr. Sieh.
Lanso Ben can come in. Please, Lanso Ben can come in quickly.
Let me make this distinction because it's critically important for us to make this.
Ben, be patient. Let me learn.
We have to be realistic. We have to be realistic. Again, I go back to the initial statement I made. If the options that's supposed to be the option to change, let's say Tiawan Gonglo refuses to work with Mr. Cummings. Ben sitting here refuses to work with Mr. Cummings. He wants change, but he refuses to work with Mr. Cummings. He sees another person that is in line with him, but he refuses to work with him. And you get Musa Benede that presents himself. What do you do, Ansony? Do you sit there?
Reject him because he is a bad actor, because who he is represent what you claim that you are against.
Listen, Listen, let me say this to you. Again, this will sound to most people as controversial as possible. But the fact remains here. I said it from the beginning. We are dealing with lots of bad actors, very bad actors. And I don't.
Musa Belete has only one vote.
But here's the thing. No. You can't say that. You can't say that. If you want us to scrutinize the political line of Musa Belete, and I'm not here making the point for Musa Belete to be vice president. That's not the point. But we have to putting
yourself in the situation you might not be able to handle.
No. I can handle it because I know what I'm saying. If you scrutinize let's scrutinize the political life of Musa Belete. Let's scrutinize it quick. 1 second, Ben will come in.
Will you do business with Musa Belete? You are in Cummings' position, or should?
What do you mean? Would I do business with Musa Belete? Which business? It depends on
political business. The same business Cummings is doing with him right now.
For Musa Belete is a politician who's worked with all of the politicians in our country.
Okay, and so that is business as usual, isn't it? Or it's the same thing, right? Over and over, right?
Not necessarily.
Wow. What's his name? Joshua worked with Musa. Ellen worked with Musa.
Exactly.
What's his name? Brunskin worked with Musa. Cummings is saying you can't do this. You can't do the same thing over and over. And he's here working with Musa, even though in the court of public opinion, he's questionable.
So then the question becomes now, based on what you just said, the question becomes now. You see where I made a statement. The hints that we are dealt with. The hints that you are dealt with. We are in politics. And again, the country does not provide us with more options or options of good people to work with.
That's not. I disagree. I disagree. I disagree. There are more good people in Liberia. There are more good people. Let Cummings be.
I disagree with you in the political arena.
That is why he has not been able to do, and that is unfortunate. Ben, let Ben come in.
I disagree with you. Politics-wise, no. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're not good Liberian people, but politics-wise, the politicians.
Steve, let me come in a little bit.
Go ahead, Ben. Sorry for that, Ben, but go ahead.
Okay, the first thing, let me disagree with Steve. Politics has dynamics. I will tell you this, whenever I hear other Liberians saying that people vote for Charles Taylor, people vote for bad actors, I think those people don't understand how politics work. You see, when you have an organization, you have what you call elites in that organization, people who run it. So you don't blame the ordinary Liberians for going to polls and voting. You blame the elites of that party that posted these people as candidates. You don't blame the people who vote. And let me tell you how, maybe some guys don't know how Liberian vote. Liberian people, in Liberia, we have something called first past the post. I can win an election in Liberia if only 10 individuals went to the polls for me. If all the other people get 9, get 6, get 7, I will still win that election and I will still be seen as elected. So what happened is, when we are talking about this thing, when we are talking about wrong decisions being made, we should rather focus on why, this show is based on why are we dealing with people that are bad actors that are in leadership. That's why earlier on I said a leader should motivate, should inspire, and lead people. So if this individual was standing alone and telling people, say, I am the difference maker, I'm not going to do things the way people are doing it. I am going to dare to be different, and I'm going to publicize my vision to the Liberian people. There will be an attraction. There will be an attraction for that. So, there is no justification for aligning yourself with bad actors. And there is no reason to blame the ordinary people. The people we vote for who is on the ballot. We vote if Charles is on the ballot, we vote for him. That's why the TRC report, they banned some people from getting on the ballot. They banned people because the public will always vote for whoever's on the ballot, no matter what. So those who lead those political organizations, it is their responsibility to make sure that the people they put on the ballot, they are reputable people. This is leadership. This is leadership. But let me tell you this. There's one thing I want to say, and I don't want to pick on any individual. Montserrat County, for me, is Liberia. Dillon, in that space, you have engineers, you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have all kind of professional people in Montserrat County. Yeah. The CPP at the time, they put Dillon on the ticket. I would tell you,
they had a gentleman
Dillon had no expertise to run anything.
I think
But
Kimmy
they put
Weeks.
Bill on the ticket. In most of
Kimmy
our, you have
Weeks.
lawyers, doctors,
Kimmy
all kind
Weeks
of
have been trying to run.
So the people will vote for who is on the ballot. They will vote for who's on the ballot.
Right.
They should have put somebody more professional, somebody more equipped to run the county better. That's all I'm telling you. So you don't blame the people for voting. You blame the elites that run this organization, because they have to be more responsible to know in terms of who can do the job that the party wants them to do.
And before Steve can come in here, look, Ben is right. And there is a failure of leadership. And Cummings needed to be tall when it comes to this issue. In the CPP, they had a dealer on the basis of he was popular, right? And you have Kimmy Wage and you have other qualified people from professional backgrounds. They went for what was convenient for them. For them, Dillon was convenient. That is the kind of decision making that can have me scratching my, how do these people make decisions? Now, Mr. Cummings was also there when Benny Nayure was here. Benny Nayure poured his daughter Talia on the ticket. No opposition from Mr. Cummings said, no, this is not right. How was that not nepotistic? We did not yet Cummings utter a war against that. He should have spoken. He did not. How was that different from Ellen putting her children in the government? How was that different from Tobo putting his family in the government? But that was what, or what's his name, Benina Ure did. Because Cummings had aligned himself with Benina, he had nothing to say. Steve?
So Ansony, I'm sitting here laughing because both of you are saying what I've said, but you are saying it using different words. I said the hints that we are dealt with. And I want to be clear. I did not say the Liberian people are bad. I said majority of the political actors and political leaders we have in Liberia, they are bad.
So don't deal with them, but Cummings has chosen to deal with them.
But here's the issue now. You want to talk about Benina Ure, you want to talk about Liberty Party and other places. But let's be honest. We who do this media stuff, who are in the media, when Unity Party brought Bernie Samoka, and we raised the alarm that he has laws behind him, don't bring him. But the CPP framework, here's a CPP framework document. You see, when we are having this kind of conversation, it's okay for us to keep things in context.
And what the comments say about that?
But let me lay down. The CPP framework document states that if Benjamin has his group, you have your group, you are independent. When you go into your group and vote and bring somebody out to us, we will support that person. It is not even right to come and say, I don't agree for all to support the person that you brought from Ben's side or the person that you brought from Ansony's side. That's what the decision is made from each party individually. Essentially, that's why we all have agreed here on that from the get-go, Mr. Cummings made a bad or a terrible mistake by joining the CPP. He screwed himself over from there. That is not excusable. But we have to also come to the facts here, gentlemen, that the political actors we have, they are bad for the most part. Most of them, they're not good people. This is the hand we are dealt with. That's all I'm saying. Let me ask Ben this direct question. Will Ben work with Mr. Cummings? So you see, will Chawan Bungalow work with Mr. Cummings if they reach to that point or if they are called on to work with him? So you see, Ben wants to go to be president. Cummings wants to go to be president. So the few good people that we might have, they divide themselves. What are we left with? Let's be realistic. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
Yes, just to answer that, I want to categorically declare on this show, I will work with Mr. Alexander Cummings, because what that will lead to, it will lead to interaction and discussion of positive and good ideas for Liberia. I will work with him. But let me go back to my point here. There is an interesting dynamics in Liberia that we miss most times. Because of this association, this thing about not repeating the same thing over and over. Cummings, obviously a good man. We all sat down here, we witnessed Henry Costa castigating this man as a criminal. He castigated and excoriated this man publicly as a criminal. And you see, Ansony raised a good point. If this man was not in the CPP, Costa would have had no room to castigate him as a criminal because he would have had no relationship to him. But you see, when we keep on doing the same thing over and over and expecting another result, we will have what we have. So I will tell you this, close to the end of this show, please, I want to outline what Mr. Cummings can do. Steve said, I can't work with him, but yeah, man, I'm going to give him my professional pieces of advice. I'm going to tell him what I think he can do to make adjustments. Because you see, we are all invested in changing Liberia. Steve, Ansony, me, and all of us on this show, our lives have time span. One of my greatest regrets would be to die and leave Liberia in the shape that it is right now. You see, that's why I'm doing everything possible, joining organization, you're trying to meet with people so that we can effect change. But I want the change. I want this to go far and clear. The change I prefer in Liberia will not include 99.9% of the actors that we have right now. It will not include them. Because the same mindset that got us into the problem cannot be the mindset to take us out of the problem. It cannot be. There's no way. These people are selfish. They are greedy. Everything is about them. Let me give you one last point. Look at our lawmakers. The lawmakers consume almost 30% of the national budget. And what kind of group is this? There's no social safety net for the people. There is nothing for the Liberian people. Everything goes to greedy actors who are doing nothing. They do no work. Nobody on this show can show me a single law that these people pass that is good for Liberia. Nothing, but they're just being paid. So we have to change the landscape needs to be completely changed. Completely changed.
Thank you. And I'd agree with you there. And I continue to argue, Mr. Cummings, based on his decision, alliances, he's formed political relationship, he's formed deals he's made so far. He's a terrible political leader. He's guilty of doing the same thing over and over. And looking at his past and covering political decision making and judgment, when he becomes a president, he will most likely be one. That is his statement, and I'm holding him to that. Let me conclude on that, then we'll go to the next segment, gentlemen. Mr. Cummings comes from the corporate world. Ben is in corporate America. He is a manager. When you are hiring people, you do background check. The Cummings do a background check on you. At some point, the ANC had a press conference in which they brought from the closet everything about Ure. They narrated it. They went ballistic. Some things that some Liberians don't know, they brought it out. That press conference was a wow for many Liberians. So that is Cummings who knew. That is ANC who knew this Ure guy. But for them, it was convenient to do business with this guy. Cummings forgot that he needed to do background check. With United Party, he formed alliances with them. How is not doing the same thing over and over and expect different results? But gentlemen, let us move on to the next issue here, and which is Cummings sacrifices his partisans in pursuit of a personal political future. And this time I will go first. This is a debate, gentlemen. I believe Mr. Cummings, as a terrible political leader, and I'm saying political leader, has sacrificed people who are so close and dear to him. At some point, he will abandon some of them. At some point, he will not even fight and advocate for them, with the expectation that doing so in his political opponent's favor, he will get the political benefit in the future. And that is bad politically. Number one, Cummings sacrificed Simeon Taylor in Cape Mount County to Unity Party of all parties. Mr. Cummings, number two, abandoned Jeremiah Slaughter in Bond County, again to Unity Party. Mr. Cummings' own political son, if not a political son, his business son, Ty Womwe, was a banner in Nimba County, even though that seat based on the CPP arrangement was allotted to the ANC. Mr. Cummings would not stand up for Tai One-Way. He even admitted that the CPP was wrong, but yet he advocated that Tai One-Way, they should accept the result. He criticized the result of the primary, but then he went on that it needed to. So that was Mr. Cummings saying, this is wrong, but let us accept it. He was doing that to save his political future. He felt that doing so, he would get the reciprocation in the future. Then of late, Mr. Cummings again sacrificed the chief of office staff, Axeva Tuba, on a hypocritical outcry, on a book with language, in my opinion, though insensitive, but why sacrifice your guy? Mr. Cummings made this sacrifice because of, people crying out, oh. So he sacrificed Ava Tuba. But we are hearing Ava Tuba is still with the party. All right? And then, finally, gentlemen, Mr. Cummings will not stop doing business with, and these sacrifices he made these sacrifices to out of the Unity Party or to people who were criticizing in the first place, hoping that those people will come in his corner. Terrible political decision making. Ben, you go.
Yes, I think that's a key point you just raised, and it speaks to what I call leadership. I will just take them one by one. Concerning Isaac's book, what I would have done if I was him, I would have shown leadership. I would have launched an independent investigation from the ANC, and I would initially have suspended Isaac. Then, based on the result of the investigation, then I would make my final decision. You see, when you are a leader, when things happen, you don't take what I call knee-jerk reaction. You should be detailed. What if? Because I've heard a lot of other people who came about and say, "Oh, there are aspects of the book that are good. There are aspects that I've not read the book myself." But what I thought he would have done as a leader is to do a detailed investigation before you take decision. Okay, now with the issue about the guy, the guy in the Cape Mount. That was one of the most wrong decision I've seen a political leader make. I will tell you why I say that. This individual ran as an independent, and in that race he came second. At the time it was saying, "Oh, it's a UP stronghold." A UP guy came in fourth or fifth. How you see, when you make decision as a leader, you have to be affirmative. You have to be convinced of the decision that you are taking, because they have to be based on facts. Don't be easily swayed. You have to you have to literally stand your ground. So I think it was, with Tai One-Way, it was disgraceful, because like you said, Tai is known as this man's son. So no matter what, you have to support the decision based on the available data. You cannot allow other people to just overrun you like that. You can't do that. You cannot do that. So I think it was just completely flawed, and it shows the kind of decision-making processes the individual have. Now, the last thing, when you are negotiating, even with the CPP, in terms of how we choose who will run where, you have to negotiate from what I would call a position of strength. You do not negotiate from a position of weakness. Then you have nothing. Cummings, it is assumed he has all the money. He who pays the piper calls the tune. You cannot allow people who are broke to be making decisions over you when you have all the money. So there is something wrong here. So if he will enter into another deal, he should make sure that he negotiates everything from a position of strength, because he is assumed to have the money. So that's how I see that.
Before you come in, let me add this there, right? Of the people that come in, either they not stand for, either sacrifice for Unity Party or some other party, in expectation that those people will be kind to him, in the future. And he was doing all this because he wanted to be the candidate of the CPP. One person is Phoebe Aaron Herrings. He has been a loyal soldier in the ANC, right? And the game was played by these actors. Phoebe had been the one contesting in that district. From my recollection, I think when he contested Aloy King second, he been competitive in that race. So this time, he was the obvious choice for the CPP. But what happened? I heard Unity Party put a candidate there. I heard somebody from the Liberty Party, I think is it G. Salisa Diba from the Liberty Party. Somebody, he went in the race. They played the game, and Fubi Aman Herring will now win that seat. I think he lost with just 104 votes, just around that neighborhood, right? If these CPP guys, and Cummings, the point I'm making here is Cummings did not stand for Fubi. He did not voice out and rebuke these other political parties who played a dirty game against the ANC candidates, and then the CPP lost that seat. ANC did not get that seat. Fubi Ama Herring did all he could do. I'm sure Cummings might have supported him in a lawsuit, going to court and all that, but that was not enough. I wanted to have seen him voicing out and pointing out the double standards the other political parties were playing, but he was not loud enough, or because he feared that doing so, they will not reward him with the CPP candidate in the future. That was a terrible political calculation that he made.
Well, I want to thank both of you, and I want to agree with both of you that maybe the vetting process from the ANC and Mr. Cummings was not as effective, because we saw the result, we saw how things went, and so forth. But here are some things that I want to pinpoint on. First thing first is, I, as a human being, I had a problem with the ANC joining the CPP. That's on record. The second thing I also had a concern about was even the hiring of Ava Atoba. Nothing against Ava Atoba, nothing. But I had a concern with the hiring of Ava Atoba. Again, it boils down to certain things. Who's coordinating the strategies of Mr. Cummings? These are some of the questions I've been asking. Who even referred Ava Atoba to Mr. Cummings? The incidents leading to Mr. Cummings hiring Ava Atoba were very concerning to me. They were very concerning, such as Ava Atoba ran for the senatorial race. Ava Atoba has taken no responsibility for bringing George Weah to the Liberian people, has refused to apologize to the Liberian people. He justifies it. He makes excuses. He runs in cycle. He's defensive. He's combative. He goes everywhere. He want to, just make noise with everybody. That is not a figure that you want to have. I'm not saying he couldn't be effective in the back, but that is not a figure you want to bring in front. You don't. From a strategic standpoint, you don't. I think it was a mismatch. I said it before, and I stand with that. Then, with the whole book coming up, with the whole book issue that came up, it exacerbated the situation. What was the pressure in even writing this book? First of all, that's his right. But what's the pressure? You are having your political leader or your employer in a court case.
Let me make the point. Ava said the book started long before the position was offered. Go ahead.
Definitely so. But again, either way you put it, it was very coinciding and it looked very funny and questionable. But Ava Atoba, I stand with a decision. I agree with Mr. Cummings on that decision to have him fired. Like they carry that noise on the other side. They already got enough noise that they're dealing with. You know what I mean? But let's come to the case with what's his name from in Nima County, Ta Wongwe. The case with Ta Wongwe, mind you, Mr. Cummings disagreed with whatever was reported and so forth. The ANC disagreed with it. But mind you also that Mr. Cummings demonstrated leadership, because in that same token, as opposed to Joshua Yuma Boaka, it was him, Mr. Cummings, that was leading the CPP. What did you expect? Him to pull out of the CPP at that time? Now, I don't think Mr. Cummings threw what a guy named under the bus. I don't think so. Ta Wongwe decided to resign from the ANC. It must be on record. He decided to resign from the ANC.
Because Mr. Cummings would not fight for him.
Fight for him in what context? What does fight mean in this context? Because fighting can be different. We are saying here that Mr. Cummings did not speak. Mr. Cummings spoke disagreeing, but yet he
disagree with the decision. He said it was wrong, but then he argued that they should accept what was wrong.
So listen now, listen to this. When you are in this kind of collaboration, you go to voting. Your one statement does not supersede.
Hold on, I want to give him a chance to address the Fubi Ama Herring's issues too. Go ahead.
Your one statement does not supersede or overtake the rest of the people. So there are 3 against 1. Even if Mr. Cummings agreed based on the records and the reports, even if Mr. Cummings disagreed, the rest of the people have agreed that they will proceed as a team. What did you expect? And he leading the CPP at that time. You expected him to pull out? You expected him to leave the CPP? Now, I would have expected Tai Wongwei. This is important. I would have expected Tai Wongwei register his disagreement and decide maybe to stay with the CPP. But it was his right to leave, which he did. No problem with that. Do they have a relationship? That I don't know about. But let's come to the Fubi hearing issue. Let's come to the Fubi hearing issue. The Fubi hearing issue is a delicate issue that other political parties undermined the CPP chances, such as the Liberty Party at that time. That in itself, also, if you have to keep it in context, Mr. Cummings was leading this whole thing. Mr. Cummings did not back away from Fubi hearing. The records are there. He supported Fubi hearing in the race. You saw them marching in District 9. You saw them moving the campaign time. He was campaigning with Fubi hearing, while other people were campaigning with Jim Diba and so forth. Now, was that undermining of the CPP for me? When I saw those moves, I said this was a red flag. This was a red flag and it was problematic. That showed that there was no cohesion within the CPP. That showed that there was no understanding, within the CPP. Other people wanted to either just jump the gun or think that they had a right to put candidate in there. So yes, in a nutshell, Mr. Cummings going forward maybe needs to be tougher because of the people that of the political arena. He needs to get tougher. But I think he just allowed himself to be run over by these guys. He needed to have been tougher than what he was. That would be my point. By the end of the day, he was in charge of the CPP, and I think he demonstrated leadership. We must give him credit for that. Amidst all the noise, all the drama, all the undermining of his leadership, he still stood tall, and he brought the biggest victory ever to the CPP that they can recall, and some of them are enjoying the victory today, and they can boast of it.
Then,
yeah, I mean, I just want to say something short to Steve. I mean, in regard to the tie thing. Now, Ansony made a point just a short while ago. Mr. Uri, he had his daughter to run. Did anybody oppose that? Did anybody say anything? I am sure there were many people who wanted to vie for that position. Dillon, the same thing when he was put forward to run. Did anybody raise an opposition? I'm sure there were many people who wanted to run. What we are saying that when you are in an alliance, your negotiations should mostly come from a position of strength. And it is assumed, I don't know the facts, that the ANC is shouldering the cost of all of these things. So why would Ty, if the ANC comes and say, well, we want Ty one way to run here, why would he be sidelined for somebody else when is the ANC that is bearing the cost of most of these things? Uri didn't have to contest with anybody for his kid to be on the ticket. Dillon didn't have to contest with anybody. So why should that condition apply to Ty one way? That's what we're talking about. You see, when you are in an alliance, there are rules, especially so regarding negotiations. But I think the ANC is being ran over here. And that's one of the things that they should fix. Next time they agree to anything, you should always negotiate from a position of strength, not from a position of weakness. Then you got nothing. Thank you.
And gentlemen, Steve.
Mr. Sieh, quick, I beg you, quick, before you can make any statement or conclusion, to close this part. I think we should refer to the CPP framework document, though. I stated here earlier on. When individual parties make decisions to send a candidate for a certain place, it's not in your position to rule that out. What they did, they apportioned these different places to these different parties, which I thought was wrong. So you see, let's take, for example, if they appropriated Monserrato County for Ansony Sieh, and they appropriated Magibi County for Steve Una Group, and they appropriated Nima County for you, Benjamin. If you went ahead and brought somebody from your family, and Ansony brings somebody from your family, and I bring somebody different. And it's not in my position to come and say, no, why you, Benjamin, got to bring somebody from your family? This is where the CPP framework document itself undermined the entire process. So it was not a one-person thing, you see. So that's why we should keep in context why we're having this conversation.
So, Steve, to what you're saying, right?
Yes.
There were times they allotted either a district or a county,
most definitely,
to a county. I mean, to a constituent member of the CPP.
Yes, sir.
Now, in some of these instances, the other party will fee a candidate or a candidate from that party or a partisan from that party, knowing that that slot is being allotted to party S, will fee a candidate.
Yes.
That party will not start their member.
Yes.
Now, Cummings needed to raise that, say, look, this is a slot that's been given to us. We know this person is your member and this person is trying to run independent.
Mm-hmm.
We'll undermine our chances and we'll undermine, ultimately the CPP chance of winning it. This is not right.
Right.
How vocal was Cummings throughout these instances in the CPP?
And that is the point. Cummings and the ANC raised the point. But here is what happened. Mm-hmm. Remember when the case with Menipakya Dumwe in Bon County? Menipakya Dumwe was with the Liberty Party. Mm-hmm. When he figured that he wouldn't have his way on the CPP, mm-hmm. that they would prefer someone over him in the primary or whatever now, Menipakya Dumwe at the point distanced himself from the Liberty Party mm-hmm. when it ran into Bon County. The same thing applies to what the guy named to James Diba. Mm-hmm. James Diba from the Liberty Party, Fubi Heron were running instead of them amalgamating forces to be able to support Fubi Herons. Guess what they did? They divided themselves mm-hmm. and went and supported James Diba, which I agree with you 100%. Mr. Cummings did speak, but at that party level, where they say each party is independent from the framework, the CPP framework document, Mr. Sieh, it was practically impossible to get these people to work on one line and so forth. So other people were never put to make compromises, which I think Mr. Cummings, again, should have stood his ground and been a little more stern and leave,
And gentlemen, let us do this so that we can give the audience time to participate, right? Which is that now we know there were red flags. Red flags, especially with this maneuvering of party, they shouldn't have put forth a candidate in certain district or county allotted to party X, but they will do so anyway. That was not right. That was a source of conflict, right? And on top of that, we saw constituent members in the CPP were not paying their dues. The ANC was complaining about this, paying their dues. Then fast forward, we saw that this ANC in some instances was being bullied, was being maligned, and so on and so forth. And so even some ANC partisans said, look, we need to get out of this. We were wrong to have come in this place in the first place. But given all these things that are happening now, it is about time we get out of this place because the plane is not going to land well. Mr. Cummings, as a political leader, despite all the red flags, made a political calculation that it was right to do so, even despite their own conference. When they went ballistic after burning down Ure and told us about all the nasty things about this man, they will still feel they needed to stay in that political alliance with that same Ure, who they said was this political devil. They did that. So the question I'm asking, which will be the last question for us to bring in the comments, and then we'll go to our conclusion, and then that is when you bring in your pieces of advice, is this one. Given all that happened, is the criminal case in court against Cummings sufficient proof that he made a poor and bad political calculation that has destroyed his path to being president? And let me emphasize with this question that the man is in court. Now he's being classified as a criminal defendant. Now he made a decision that landed him in court, and CDC got their knee on his neck. is Cummings responsible for this? Does this equate to like a nail in the coffin to his path? Ben, you go first on this one. Ben, you go first.
Me?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Well, the first thing I have to be honest. I think there is from my from how I assess everything, I don't think there's any legitimate legal case against him. I don't think there's any. All of this is just fabrications and innuendos. The whole thing makes no sense. The whole thing makes no sense. But one key thing I would like to say is this: on May, hold on a minute, because I want to get the date right here. On September 12, 2021. That was when this whole thing broke up. There was an interesting news that came out of the first time he was charged with altering this framework document. Youngly stated that, I'm talking about, she's speaking and I watched her. She said when they signed the original documents, everything, I think all four of them, or five of them, they gave them to Mr. Cummings. I really don't understand that, because I know if I'm in a contract with you and we sign documents, everybody has their individual copies. Even if there's a need for alterations, we would do that alteration, then make another 5 copies and come and give everybody their copies. But for the fact that these other parties, they said they sat there and they signed their copy and gave them to one man, makes no sense. All I'm trying to say is the whole framework documentation, the altering, I will say this: there is no legal case against this people. And sadly, the state government of Liberia is now using this case negative, which will backfire. There's no case against them. But it speaks to your initial point in terms of doing the same thing and expecting different results. I will emphasize this: if Cummings has not aligned himself with the CPP, there would have been no case. There would have been no case. You see, so it speaks to judgment. It speaks to vision. Legally, from what I have assessed, there is no legal case against him. The state is now using this publicly to ultimately convict him and bar him from contesting in the next election, which is disgraceful and it is embarrassing. There is no case against him. That's just my thing, that there's no case. I don't see the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, the Cummings look for their own trouble here.
Well, I wouldn't say so, because I don't think anyone decides to see trouble and just walk into it. I think here is a man who listened to the cries of the Liberian people to some extent, that you need to collaborate, you need to work with other people, and so forth. Here is a man who, up until on the record, based on information that we have gathered, that helped finance most of the CPP workings and running. Here's a man who came with a goodwill and a good gesture to work with other people who feel entitled, who feel that propaganda is everything, who feel that they're entitled to the presidency, who decide to orchestrate a plan against a good man. But I know for a fact, speaking as human being, that because we don't have too many good people in Liberia in the political arena, when we see few good people, instead of upholding them and working with them, we try to tear them down. And that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. So I don't think, and I've said this over and over, there has been no case from day one. There will be no case tomorrow. I don't care, you care wherever it is. There will be no case. The government and Benena Yure Joseph Yoman Boakai and Yomli Kangalore have decided that they will work with the Liberian government in order to bring Trump up fraudulent charges against Mr. Cummings to either print him black or so forth. And I think, speaking of judgment, I think Mr. Cummings made the right call for not leaving the CPP. He made the right call because he went there knowingly, and he made the right call for not leaving it, because had he left, these guys would have used that as a clause against him. As they are today, shamelessly walking away in the head, not legally, because they don't understand the thing that the world surrounds them, that they can just decide to just do anything at any time, and it would just hold water. That's why they're in courts now. They're with the neck, as to whether they will feel a candidate in Lofa County or they wouldn't. And more likely so they wouldn't feel a candidate in Lofa County, because the law is the law. But in a nutshell, Mr. Sieh, Mr. Cummings has done nothing wrong. I don't think his political chances are screwed. What I believe and what I think is, I think when we come to the recommendation side, maybe Ben can give him free recommendation because he's a politician. I do consulting work on the side, so I don't give free advice to politicians. I don't give free knowledge. No, we're not going to do that. You pay for services and you get it. So Ben can do that because Ben wants to be president. He can collaborate with Mr. Cummings, and give him some advice. But for me, I would just sit on the side and say, in a nutshell, the ANC need to get strategic people that will revitalize, re-energize, rebrand, and push the agenda of Mr. Cummings. I think all hope is not dead, and I think this bogus charge or whatever it is, wherein the Solicitor General and the key witness fraudulently altered, maliciously, dubiously altered the evidence that they presented to the court. So it's a shame. We can't hear you. You're muted, Mr. Sieh.
Thank you, Steve. Folks, I believe if anybody is to be blamed for the situation Mr. Cummings is in that is so difficult to handle now, it's all on Mr. Cummings. It was Mr. Cummings' decision to join ranks with terrible political actors like the Unity Party, Benny Nayire. Why would Mr. Cummings think that joining the Unity Party and doing business with a political nobody like Benny Nayire, who can't even win 0.1%? Come to think about it, the guy cannot win 0.9%, and you are forming an alliance with him on what basis, Mr. Cummings? The Unity Party thing will make sense when you're looking at numbers. But come on, man. Ure? And then later on, you will have all these things. So even the Unity Party, at the end of the day, is the Liberian people that decide based on how the candidate sells himself to the Liberian people. If Prince Johnson can sell himself and get voted, why Cummings think he can get a soul to the Liberian people and get voted and will be aligning himself with corrupt Unity Party to do so? If he had not joined, because the thing is about collaboration. Stevie said something that the way it is, one have to form a collaboration to win. That is true. One person can win it upright. But there are more good people in Liberia. Mr. Cummings could form a collaboration with individuals and political parties that have no questionable record or character in the Liberian body politics. The crooks maybe who have come along, and you keep these people in the back end. I can't be here and pretend that they are not bad actors and the bad actors don't have influence, but you don't make the bad actor the face of whatever you are doing to succeed. And this is what Mr. Cummings has done. And because these guys felt that he was not playing to their tune, and now here he is now, he's in court by the very Ure. He did not only do business with one time, but two times. That is doing the same thing over and over. That is a failure to not know that current behavior is the predictor of future behavior. Mr. Cummings got himself in court today. He is responsible for the CDC playing with him in court. He has damned his chances. He has destroyed his chances of making it to the political promised land, which is the executive mansion. Gentlemen, we will take a short break, folks. In cyberspace, it is about time for you to participate. The comments are so many, 325 of them. I can't read them because of time, but we'll take few calls. So that is the number on the screen there. Place your call right now. We'll take some calls, and when you call, your maximum is 1 minute because we want to get as many calls as possible. But maybe I'll bend the rules and make some exception for other people. But 1 minute each. 1 minute each when you call. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're taking your calls. Please stay tuned. Focus on Liberia. We'll do it like
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you, Dennis Baku Kenguja, and I'm answering Sieh. Folks, let us go to the phone line. I see a surrogate of Joseph Walker here. George Preston Lobo, you are live. Can we hear you?
Mr. Sieh, I want to say thank you very much. Let me greet your panelists in the studio. But I thought it wise to call in today just to provide clarification to a few things that were said. I know the few weeks ago you hosted Moses. I usually call him Steve Bullet. And I asked a question which he did not answer, even though he tried to circumvent the facts. But let's get to the issue here why I called. I just wanted to clarify that for the public. The very first thing when I called and spoke on the CPB framework document, Mr. Sieh, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and which of course I will go further on. Steve, I told him before there were 5 copies signed originally, and those 5 copies, Mo Ali took those 5 copies around. The reason why he did it that way, each copy will have to have the signature of every single political leader. So after all of them had signed those 5 copies, the thought was that Mr. Cummings would
Mr. Lobo, Mr. Lobo,
yes.
Our topic for today is how Mr. Cummings, Mr. Lobo, you're not going to, no, Mr. Lobo, hold on. The topic for discussion is, has Mr. Cummings destroyed his chances for becoming president? If you believe, yes, he has done, give your reasons, and you have 1 minute to tell us how you think he has destroyed his chances. I'm not going to go into that CPP thing. We have time to discuss it enough. Go ahead.
But then when you, hold on now, when you have Steve or Moses sit here.
Don't worry about Steve. Please make your case, Mr. Lobo. Please make your case. Okay. Has Mr. Cummings destroyed his chances? If so, how?
Mr. Sieh, Mr. Sieh, I said in my statement that I called to provide clarification to statements made. If you feel that the statements were right, then okay. Mr. Cummings' chances of president have been very, very clear. It is not going to happen. So that is clear with. That is up to the ANC and Cummings supporters. So
and what's your reason for saying that? What reasons and logic support that?
My reason is very, very clear, Mr. Sieh. Mr. Cummings has demonstrated to the Liberian people that he lacks the ability to be able to lead. Very simple. It is true now, Mr. Cummings has shown to us that when you come from in a set environment where there's a SOP, which means a standard operating system, basically you just have to implement what you need on the book. So now it is clear SOP is standard operating procedure. That's what I meant to say, but you know what I think what I was trying to say. So here's what it is. It's clear that Mr. Cummings, we gave him 4 political parties to run. And it is a shame, Mr. Sieh. I don't care what people say. It was under his leadership that these documents were authored. What I expected from Mr. Cummings to have done was, what I expected for him to do was to take responsibility. Today, like you said, he's in court. Whatever happens in the court, we'll let it play itself out. But with the argument for which they went in the court, it's very, very clear. They went to the court because U.S. said the document that I signed on May 19th.
All right, Mr. Lobo, it seems to be you want to dwell on this CPP framework document. I want you to give reason why you think Mr. Cummings will not be president. Your only reason is the CPP framework document, and you want to restate it over and over. Then that is the only reason you have. So I would like to take leave of you, Mr. Lobo.
No, Mr. Sieh, I want to be very clear here. This is a political conversation. And if you want me to answer the question like how you want to guide me or script that, it's not possible. So I would say what I want to say, because when people make claims and we respond to them, when we call, that is what we should do. If you believe that I should say yes or no, ask me a yes or no question, and then I go from there.
I asked you to give your reason why you think he has destroyed his political chances.
These are all the reasons that I've led up to it, Mr. Sieh. Can I speak, sir?
You have 1 minute, Lord, Mr. Lobo. You have 1 minute, Mr. Lobo. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Sieh, let me just make this very, very clear. I would not, here's what I would say on this issue. I repeat my position. The good thing about it, we gave Mr. Cummings a chance to lead, to serve, giving him the fact that we trusted him with the CPP, and that was the only opportunity of public service, and I'm done with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lobo. We appreciate your call. The next caller here is Evans Morris, phone number ending in 0274. Let's hear you, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sieh, for taking my call. To your question, I agree with you. Not 100%, I would say his chances has been diminished. And for me, the main reasons are twofold. First of all, it's his slogan. The fact that he says that you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's a slogan that he can no longer live by. Because like you stated earlier, he's surrounding himself with dirty people and claiming to be Mr. Clean. So that statement no longer holds water. Another factor is, I think a lot of people miss this, is the changing of staff. You have a delicate position like the chief of office staff, which I think Mariah Kula was doing a great job. And once that position was handed over to Asava Toma, you saw the chaos that happened. A lot of the things that went wrong with Mr. Cummings came within that short period of time. So I think changing the guard is something that drastically hurt his chances. Having somebody that can right the ship and steer you in the right direction as your chief of office staff is very important. And I think that position being handed over to somebody who perhaps wasn't prepared for it or didn't have his best interest at heart really hurt his chances.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Sieh.
All right, thank you there. Let's bring in the name yes said Josephine Davis, if that is correct, 3219. You have a minute. Let us hear you, please.
Yes. Hello, Anthony, and your panelists. My name is Ethan Dia. I'm calling because, just to answer the question for the day.
Go ahead. Has Cummings destroyed his chances of becoming president? Yes. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Yes, it's Josephine, but it's Ethan that's speaking with you right now. Is that okay?
It's okay. Go ahead. Let's tell you. You got 1 minute, please.
All right. So here's the point. The point is that Mr. Cummings lacks integrity. So he.
Go ahead. We are listening.
So Mr. Cummings lacks integrity, right? So in the first place, he goes into collaboration with other folks of whom he said that these people are corrupt, members of past regime, okay? And then, he goes into a collaboration, a relationship with these people to develop, a framework. And that framework later becomes questionable. So honestly, he's supposed to take the time to resolve, the question about this framework as a leader. Okay? But he failed to do that. He entered another contract with another tainted character. So if you're saying that this man is a savior, he's the only person with character with leadership qualities, you know, but he finds himself, you know, aligned with all of these people who he knows that they're tainted. Then, you know, it becomes a matter of character. So he has lost that you know, issue of character. So
Thank you.
he cannot lead the country.
Thank you so much. We will bring in the names here. Says Norris Johnson, phone number ending in 4573. You have a minute. Let us hear you, please.
Thank you. This is Norris Johnson. I am calling from Fort Drum, New York, upstate New York. So, and I just want to say, first of all, I don't know if the question that you asked is relevant or not.
The question, has Mr. Cummings destroyed his chances to be president based on his judgments and decisions and political relationships he's formed so far since entering in politics, looking at also being in court?
No, I understood the question, quite frankly.
Thank you.
But what I was trying to drive at is the elections is about almost like 18 to 20 months out. This is politics, man. This is the early stage. He might have stumbled and fall, but he still got a lot of opportunities. And I know that he's going to come on back, he's going to recalibrate, and he's going to refocus, reevaluate himself, his political career, and he still has a lot of opportunities. Now, let me just, there's a few things out here. Mr. Josh Lobo, he always, I don't know, for some reason, when it comes to calling on platform like this, he's very effective in calling and get misinformation. Now, if you're gonna say Mr. Cummings is weak or he destroyed his chances of presidency because under him the CPP framework document was went to a problem. What about Joseph Walker, who claims to be the leader? Under Joseph Walker, the CPP today is non-existent. So he has failed. Cummings led to falling the collaboration to the collaborating political party into an election. They won majority of the seats, right or wrong. Unlike Joseph Blockhead, the CPP no longer exists. So who is the leadership failure?
Thank you.
Joseph Blockhead served for 12 good years. 12 years. Under his 12 years administration or regime, today we have no electricity. Even though there was enough funding, why did we even come to invest in
so Mr. Johnson, you think Cummings did not destroy his chances of becoming president? That is the question.
Okay. No, I think that Cummings has a greater opportunity. He got a better chance today. I can vote over Cummings today.
So he has done nothing to his own chances, right? Are you saying he has done nothing to his own chances?
No, he still got a better chance. And he has a better chance.
And he did not do anything to his own chances.
No, this is politics. Sometimes you fall and you get up.
Okay.
You're not saying that he's done fair before.
Okay.
You fall and you get up.
All right.
So my point here is about resiliency, right? Resiliency isn't about you're not able to fall, but how do you bounce back?
Thank you. Thank you. That was Norris Johnson there. Let us bring in John Manglo. John Manglo is from the ANC. Mr. Manglo, your turn, and you have your minute, and use your minute judiciously.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Sieh and your panelists there, Steve and Mr. Mr. Fa. Listen, you know, it's easy to criticize other people when you're not in the arena. You know, people find it easy just to tell people what to do and how to do stuff. It's like a mechanic going to tell an aeronautic engineer how to make the rocket better to reach to the moon. You know, you can only sit on a platform like this and discuss detailed stuff if you know the detail of what happened. But
Mr. Manglo, the question we are asking, Mr. Manglo, somebody have to criticize. Hold on, Mr. Manglo. Mr. Manglo, hold on. Mr. Manglo, hold on. Seems to be listening to something else.
So your question is no. Mr. Cummings has done nothing to damage his chances. Nothing.
All right.
His chances are as good as when he joined the CPP. But what I'm saying to you is that for you to sit down on the platform and discuss something vehemently, as if you know the detail of what is going on, That's dangerous for the population of the people you're trying to reach. You got to always understand when you sit in this platform that people, the Liberian people listening to you, most of them expect you to be informed, and so they believe what you say. You can't take your personal opinion and put it on them. You should be educating the people. You, Mr. Ansony, sat down on that same platform yesterday and was explaining how Mr. Cummings should just, Mr. Bodka should just negotiate with Cummings and let him go first and for a few years and this and that. And I told you that you cannot be preaching change and arguing for the same old thing. Then you come here today and say, Mr. Cummings was wrong to join the Unity Party, they corrupt and this and that. That means you yourself are confused on what you want.
Mr. Maulo, Mr. Maulo, thank you, Mr. Maulo. I think you made your point, and if you come into this business of politics,
not made because you need to educate and don't put your personal opinion out there.
I will always put my personal opinion out there, and I will always put my personal opinion out there. I will always put my personal opinion out there. Mr. Maulo, thank you for calling. I appreciate that. I know you came to fight, and for me, I'm a fighter. I don't hide or run away from the fight. Gentlemen, let's take our final caller here. That is phone number ending in. Caller, please stop listening to the show. Just listening to your phone only. Your number ends in 5847. Stop listening to the show anywhere else. Stop listening to the show anywhere else. Just listen to your phone. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. You are still listening to something somewhere, either on the phone, the Facebook Live, you're listening to, cancel it. Just listening to your phone. There's a feedback.
I'm not listening to anything though.
Well, then I don't know what is causing that feedback. But go ahead.
I'm not listening. But go ahead. Yes. What I wanted to say was I do agree that bad judgment was applied when the ANC joined the collaboration. And some of the members like myself did tell them that. However, Cummings is the only opposition that is threatening the CDC government right now. And that is evidenced by them keeping him in court on a bogus charge. And there can be setbacks on every journey. Although the water is muddy, it is not late for Cummings. He can continue to collaborate. Even while he's in court, he can continue to collaborate. And the government will have no option but to drop those charges because it's really not there. If they insist that the charges are there just to take him out of the race, everybody will see that it's strictly political and CDC is only a threat of Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Gentlemen, that would do it for callers. Folks who have rating as your contribution. Sometimes it's difficult to do the comments and the calls at the same time. I will read all the comments. I usually do. I read all of them. Gentlemen, I'm back with you. It is about time to conclude. I think we have discussed enough. It is time for you to give your closing, and you can choose to do whatever you wish to do. But the closing question is, has Cummings destroyed his path to be president? And if you have any pieces of advice, whatever you wish to do that, but make sure you answer that question in your closing. And let us start with Mr. Fanel. Ben, you go ahead.
Yes. When we do research, we have a opening remarks. Then we go at the end of it. We have the remark that close it. Then we kind of reassess what we said initially. Now, this is it. Has Cummings destroyed his chances? Categorically, I would say no, but let me point out some of the things that he did wrong. There are 4 of them. Cummings initially failed to properly articulate his visions for Liberia. Number 2, he had no public documentation in terms of what his plans are for Liberia as well as the timelines. In joining the CPP, he failed to distinguish himself as a change agent. Next, it is apparent that he was prepared or he was willing to compromise his core values to, to achieve his ambition. The last thing I've noticed, he has repeatedly had false start, like he formed relationship with the CPP. We are not done yet. Then he formed another relationship with a group of the LP that we don't know where it's going. You know, when you form bad relationship, when they fail, you step back and you assess. So, what did I do wrong, and how can I prevent or avoid that going forward? He has not shown that. Now, those are some of the missteps I think he's made. Let me tell you what I believe he can do to recover or to rebrand himself. The first thing is, Steve raised this point, and he said that he didn't leave the CPP. I want Mr. Cummings to, at the end of all the legal process, to legally divorce himself from the CPP, because the CPP is now known as an icon of failure, an icon of confusion. So he needs to leave the CPP legally and rebrand himself. Now, within that rebrand, he should also re-emphasize that there is a need for real change in Liberia. Number two, he has to outdoor documentation. This is very important because Liberians, you and myself, will need a roadmap. Cummings is trying to contest for the highest office in the land. We should be able to read what he's talking about, what his visions, what his plans are, and what timelines are associated with them. He needs to publicize them. Let me stress one point here. He comes from an organization that prides itself in data, and it is embarrassing to see this individual vying for the highest office in the land. He doesn't have a website where we can go to and read his platform. So he needs to do that. The third thing he needs to do is he has to introduce a disciplined media strategy. Let me tell you why I say that. You have apologists of the ANC, everybody coming in, saying their own thing, saying their own. There should be message control, so that at some point everybody will be saying the same thing, and everybody will be re-emphasizing the same thing. As compared to the noise we have here, everybody ANC guys saying this or ANC guys saying that. No. Then the last thing that I want him to do, he needs to constantly call out bad governance in Liberia. What happened the last time when the State of the Nation address was made? It took them almost 4 days. These things have what they call sense of urgency. There's a timeline in terms of how you respond to them. There are lots of bad things going on in Liberia, and he has to daily, speak against us and identify them so that Liberians can know that, oh, this guy is here and he means business and he want to change. And the last thing I want to say, let's look at the CPP. The timeline of this organization is 2 years. Less than 2 years, and we've seen that an association of the opposition groups in Liberia, we've seen them self-destruct. It is a shame. I will give you the timeline. Monday, May 19, 2020, the CPP framework document was signed. September 2021, Cummings is accused of altering the CPP framework by Nyombli. And we'll go to January 3rd, December 30th, ALP exit. January 3rd, ALP filed a court case. January 28th, Nyombli's group of the LP leaves the CPP. And just last month, Waka Group left the CPP. What I just showed you is just a combination of failures. It's just a total disaster. It shows that with this group of people, Liberia is going nowhere. Final analysis I would give, that's why I'm selling myself. I'm coming to Liberia. I'm not combining with nobody. I want Liberians to believe that genuine change can come to Liberia without combining yourself with people who have bad history, who have bad past. Liberians and Liberia deserve better. We need to break away completely from the past. We don't need any of these people. Their experience is the experience of failure. They have done nothing. The country continues to remain like a dump site while they enrich themselves. Liberian desire change. Liberia want change. Through me, Liberia will get change. And Cummings has ultimately failed in terms of his statement of bringing change to Liberia. Thank you.
Mr. Bola, your closing.
Well, Ansony, I want to say thank you and thanks to you and Focus on Liberia. I want to provide clarity here on something, and I want to address specifically Mr.
You can say, okay, good.
Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to clarify something here. I want to specifically address Mr. George Noble. Last week or week before last, when I was invited on the show, I did answer his question about the framework document. Maybe he needs to go back and listen to it. But I did answer his question directly. It was a direct answer I gave to him before I kept it in check. But that's a side point. I think Mr. Cummings has lots of chances. I think the chances even became better and good when the Unity Party and the Liberty Party left the CPP illegally, unceremoniously. They left in ahead. Now the Liberty Party, the ALP, they left in ahead, as evidenced by that they are in neck right now, when that has to adjudicate if they can feed a candidate in Lofa County for the upcoming senatorial election in Lofa County. So that's an evidence that we all can look at. When we advise them that if you want to leave, it's okay for you to leave, but it's okay for you to also leave the proper way. This is to tell you everything we've said here. Mr. Cummings made an initial mistake in a poor judgment to even join them. This is to tell you this is how these guys behave. They don't follow the rule of law. They don't want to do what is right. They make their own rules. They don't keep up with it. Mr. Cummings does have a lot of chances. Again, I don't say one, lots of chances. I would urge Mr. Benjamin Fine to please reconsider his decision, his statement, or take back his statement that he will not work with anybody. He will go alone and so forth. I think this is part of the reason why I said earlier on we're dealt with bad hands in the political arena.
He said he would rather stand alone if he can't find good people to work with. It's not that he's not going to work with anybody.
Well, he has good people to work with there. There are maybe one or two few good people. I would urge him to start stating maybe that he want to work with these people, because when the good people separate themselves like this, and there's this unwillingness maybe to really work together, to come together, then guess what happened? The bad actors would work together, and we know the strength of unity. We do. Even when bad people decide to come together, they can achieve their goal. Now you think about good people decide to come together. But again, Mr. Cummings does have a lot of chances. I don't think the political mistake he's made would determine whether he becomes elected as president or not. I think the case in the court is a blessing in disguise for him, but it depends how they will approach it from a strategic standpoint. I'm not here to give any free advice to any political leader or any political party. No, that's not going to happen. I think these things need to be paid for. These things, they're not free. Consultants say they're not free. Mr. Benjamin Fang can do that because he's at liberty. He's running for presidency. He can do that. And if he want consultation, we can get into business. But I think if Mr. Cummings commits to strategy, bringing on the right people, and doing the right thing, implementing the right strategy, I think his campaign can be revitalized. I think he can do a lot better, because based on what we're seeing now, the shift of paradigm, and I think it will even get worse right after June, between June and July. Between now and the 26th, it will get worse to present him. I want to predict on the show that it will get worse to present him as the only alternative for Liberia. But he has to start positioning himself in that way by bringing more strategic people on. Again, it's critically important that he brings strategic people on to help, push his campaign, his agenda, and so forth. As for the other people who left in the head, who left illegally, you say we go close on anything. The other people who left in the head, who left illegally, I want to say on the show, they ain't going anywhere. They will go in cycles. They ain't going anywhere. They know what is right. They know the truth. Those people who left in their head, which is better than you, he left in his head, just like Human Baga left in his head, they have to go do the right thing, the legal thing. Let them do the right thing and the legal thing. Even if you are the supporter, tell them to do the right thing and the legal thing for once in their political lives. And maybe, just maybe, the Liberian people would forgive them. I'm not saying they will ever be president, but you will not be president. Jose Human Baga will not be president of Liberia. That's not possible. So those of you who are banging on them, you keep wasting your time. That will never be, it will never come to pass. I'm using the word never deliberately. It will never happen. These guys will not be president in Liberia. So that being said, you do what you got to do. We are here and we're watching you, Mr. Sieh. Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.
That was the voice of Steve Bullet, aka Mose, host at SKTV. Yet is my closing, and I enjoyed that this was more like a debate. I came and I gave reasons why Mr. Cummings, I believe, has destroyed his chances of becoming president of Liberia. For those who missed that, you can watch the replay and you will get all the reasons that I've stated. So I will give my closing on this topic. Has Mr. Cummings destroyed his chances to be president? I believe he had made judgments that were detrimental to his chances. I believe he formed political relationships that are questionable and brought serious questions to his chances. And I also believe he joined a collaboration that is hurting him today, and he's in court. The association with Unity Party, the likes of Ure, the likes of Musa Belete, who has questionable character in the code of public opinion, being part of the CPP that have hashed a framework document that was just dividing jobs among themselves and leaving out all the Liberians who get rebuked and come by and craft another one that is not even good enough. And he would not stop, will go and form or craft another MOU with Musa Belete, in which reportedly they divided some jobs. He's tight-lipped on it. He's been given ultimatum. Now the ANC is saying the Unity Party and the ALP left illegally. I agree with that, based on the language of the CPP. But they are not there. I don't hold you responsible, but then you are striking deals. Look, I don't see how this train is going to land well. But again, I must say to you, no one can tell who's going to win. What I believe is that decisions that were made, alliances, relationships, judgments made by Mr. Cummings, they aren't helping at all. Which one happened? The decision to sacrifice Taiwan? The decision to sacrifice Simeon Taylor? The decision to go into this merger with the CPP? I'm not merger, but an alliance with the CPP? The decision of a MOU with Musa Belete? Which one helped him? All of these things contributed to him being in court today, and the CDC got him where they needed him. But this is what is possible. Will he resurrect? Will he leave the court? Will he form his own political union? Will he rebuild the CPP? And will he go into the election to win? There's no way of knowing. What we know is that the CPP being divided has destroyed the momentum that the opposition was having on this side. So no one can predict who's going to win. We will know when the variables start tilting in one person's favor. That is why we know, but we don't know who that person is going to be. Folks, thank you for all the criticism. I love when you bring all the criticism. I just smile. I don't care how you attack me. It doesn't move me because I know the business I'm in. I will make some people feel so bad. Yesterday, I was on Boaka. The ANC folks were celebrating me. I was the greatest thing ever happened. Today, I'm on their guy and I'm criticizing him. Oh, yes, I criticize and I will not stop criticizing all of them. I will criticize them. That's my job. It's an insignificant job, right? It makes me look like an ugly guy, right? But I will do it and I love it. Why did I do it? You might wonder. Because someone has to do it and I've chosen to do it. Because when you criticize people, when they see the truth and the reality in the things you criticize and they make adjustment, it's good for them. So I'm not the bad guy. But I love being the bad guy, and the bad guy will forever remain if my job is being the bad guy. Let me be the bad guy. You be the good guys. And may your good guys thing bring you to being the right place, bring you to the right place that we need to be as a people. We need a better country. We need better leaders. We cannot get better leaders by worshiping them. We cannot get better leaders by being sycophantic. We get better leaders by holding them accountable and telling them their pitfalls, their wrongs. And that is what I'm doing. And you don't like that. But I like that you don't like that. Because I like Liberia. I love you. Until I catch you again, my name is Ansony. Sieh. Call me the troublemaker. I like that name too. Well, the song says we are all Liberians. Whether you believe Cummings has destroyed his chances or not, you are a Liberian. Whether you believe, as Sieh does, that Benin would never be president, that Boaka would never be president, and that maybe we would never win again, we are all Liberians. Whether you believe Benjamin Kofa Fania is not going to win and he's wasting his time as a political candidate for president, we are all Liberians. He said he's going to work with Cummings. Does it mean that he's relinquishing his ambition? Then what happened to your plan? I love your plan. Will he stand alone and win? No, he will not stand alone and win. I love this thing called politics. Folks, we have to go enjoy the song. We are all Liberians until I see you next time. Your troublemaker saying, I love you, even though you hit me.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.